Ladies and gentlemen, this is huge. Alina Habba has begun a criminal investigation of the New Jersey governor. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. You will hear Alina Habba in 1 second. President Trump is not an authoritarian. He's not a despot. He's not a totalitarian. And he's simply following existing laws. Before every segment that I talk regarding this topic, I want to say, and in a couple of seconds you will hear Alina Habba, but God bless all the wonderful, beautiful, amazing people from Venezuela, from El Salvador, from Mexico, from the Middle East, undocumented and documented. However, there is a distinction. President Trump is enforcing immigration laws. He's essentially starting to arrest Democratic governors, mayors, and others who deliberately break laws, federal laws that they have to uphold. This isn't difficult to prove. They are planning arrests of politicians, left and right, blue and red, Republican and Democrat, likely Democrat, who do not want to enforce federal laws. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Let's get started.
Now, the U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey, Alina Habba, is here with more. Is that true? Do you have proof of that? Have you heard that to be true?
Let me give you a very brief summary of what we do know. We know that the governor has on his website currently do's and don'ts for his local state of law enforcement. Those do's and don'ts instruct them not to cooperate with illegal immigrants who have administrative warrants that have been issued by the court after due process saying that they are no longer welcome here. They have gone through the court system. They are to be deported. It is instructing them to go against our federal rules, our executive orders.
That is against the law. That is not a, some type of simple excuse. That is not a difference in protocol or procedure, or that is a deliberate attempt at breaking the law. And it's not just the New Jersey governor. You're looking at 10 to 12 nationwide governors, mayors, and other politicians. Okay, AOC was giving a web seminar instructing people essentially not to comply with existing laws. So she stopped doing those web seminars. I wonder why AOC stopped doing those web seminars.
And I am unfortunately going to announce on your show tonight, Sean, and I want it to be a warning for everybody, that I have instructed my office today to open an investigation into Governor Murphy, to open an investigation into Attorney General Platkin, who has also instructed the state police not to assist any of our federal, and they list our federal agencies that are under my direction, the FBI, the DEA, all these individuals that are trying to clean up our streets in New Jersey, not to cooperate. That will no longer stand. Pam Bondi has made it clear, and so has our president, that we are to take all violent criminals and criminals out of this country and to completely enforce federal law. And anybody who does get in that way, in the way of what we are doing, which is not political, it is simply against crime, will be charged in the state of New Jersey for obstruction, for concealment, and I will come after them hard. Those investigations will start immediately. The governor and the attorney general.
Let me ask you, Alina, because this is a really important question, because I have felt all during the Biden years, we had wide open borders, known terrorists, murderers, rapists, cartel members, gang members. We see all these Americans murdered, raped, victims of violent crime.
That is, according to the wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democratic Party, simply something that Americans must deal with to be altruistic and just and on the right side of history pertaining to immigration. The rebuttal from one person in Congress, well, would you expect people not to commit crimes? Yes, absolutely. And God bless, like I say, God bless the hardworking, wonderful, beautiful, amazing people who come to this country, undocumented and documented, But yes, if I go to other countries, if I go to Mexico, if I go to South Korea, if I go anywhere and I'm undocumented, I will not commit a crime. And if I do, I understand immediately that country will kick me out.
And in my view, both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and I'll add Mayorkas to the list, they have blood on their hands. How is it not aiding and abetting in law breaking if you're a sanctuary city or state, or if you are ordering your law enforcement not to cooperate with federal agents when the supremacy clause gives the clout to the federal government over local officials anyway?
That's correct. And let me tell you, to my state officers in New Jersey, some of whom I met with today, I appreciate and respect what you can and cannot do. They don't have Title VIII authority. I understand that. But what they have been instructed to do by the AG and the governor, as is on their website, is to actually not even make the phone call to ICE when they run their record and see that there is a valid warrant, an administrative warrant ordering deportation. That is putting the people in my state in jeopardy, in a serious predicament, and our, frankly, state officers are now being held with their hands behind their back because they have people using politics over crime and the safety of the American people. Sean, you know how serious I am about law and order. I have been on the other side of it. I will literally just protect our people. That is what this is about, American safety. And if anybody wants to use politics or their position to go and violate any federal law or any executive order in this state, and that includes sanctuary cities, and I'm looking at you, Paterson, New Jersey, I will be investigating you. And if you did commit a crime, if you ordered obstruction, if you are ordering concealment and harboring, you will be charged.
Well, I'm going to give a nice little warning to the AG and the governor.
So the supremacy clause of the Constitution refers to the foundational principle that, in general, federal law takes precedence over any conflicting state law. The supremacy clause underpins the broader doctrine of preemption, where if laws are in conflict, the law of a higher authority can preempt the law of a lower authority. Federal laws take precedent over local or state laws, especially pertaining to immigration. This isn't difficult, and President Trump, Bondi, Patel, Habba, and others are going to, they've essentially already said, okay, these people committed crimes. They've essentially already arrested individuals. It'll happen, but it's only been, look, he was sworn in January, late January, February, March, April. It's 3 months. Already people are like, getting, impatient. I get it. But this is going to take place because, like a moth to a flame, the entire Democratic Party potentially could be based upon unfettered immigration and money from USAID and other government agencies that funnel taxpayer dollars into non-governmental organizations back into the Democratic Party. That could be the two pillars of the Democratic Party, possibly. I'm not saying they are. I'm saying possibly, potentially. Like the Honorable James Comey says, potentially, according to Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, and others.
If you want to go against Alina Habba, good luck, because she has a lot of Trump in her, and you're messing with the wrong person here. Alina, thank you. We appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Hey. U.S. Attorney General in New Jersey, and she joins me now. All right, Alina, welcome back to the show. How would we get that person and bring him back to America? How are we going to do it?
Probably the same way he went out, by a plane, I would assume.
You know what I mean?
Look, there's something more important. Look, there's something more important here, which is if you look at what the Department of Justice's comments were on this, and I'll echo them, the Supreme Court already said that there is deference to the executive branch and that we have to respect the president's orders. That has been made clear, that he could continue to conduct deportations. That is also clear. And we are following.
And then you get these fact-checking articles, like they try to spin the Supreme Court victory, and you'll hear about that in a second. I read all the left-leaning publications. I read them so you don't have to. The rebuttal is, well, this was also a win for the ACLU and others. How so? Oh, well, there's a certain amount of due process. Number one, the federal judge in D.C. told Texas that they couldn't deport a number of individuals that were eventually sent to El Salvador. The Supreme Court said the lower court judges can't issue that type of nationwide injunction. That was a huge defeat against President Trump. Now, any judge around the country that says, hey, you can't do that in Arizona or Georgia or Texas, if it's a D.C. judge or any other judge not within that state, the Supreme Court already ruled in Trump's favor. You can't simply be a judge someplace in the country, D.C. or otherwise, and state that Trump can't enforce immigration laws in Texas or Arizona or any other, California, any other place, New York. So that was a huge victory. And then they said, yeah, you can use the Alien Enemies Act, which was the entire argument from Democrats. You can't use that. You have to be at war. We're not at war with this country. It's like, you lost yet again, but you're trying to find a silver lining. And Trump and Alina Habba and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dana Bongino, they don't care about proving in court through due process. That's not the issue. They can easily prove all of this very quickly. Now the two big victories were that the president can use the Alien Enemies Act and that a D.C. judge cannot stop the president from enforcing existing laws in Texas or any other state. That was huge. And then you read these New York Times and other articles, well, Trump really lost. And no, he didn't. He really won.
Following executive orders and federal law, we are cleaning up the streets. That is what the DOJ is doing. Now, what happened here is we have, like we've seen many, many times since this administration began, was that there were a lot of orders trying to change what the executive orders say, halt them, stop them. And there's going to be continuous, I think, conflict here because we have some of these judges that are using platforms to be political. And that really does have to stop. I've said that for years. What would happen with this individual, literally, quite literally, is that they want him shipped back and to, again, go through the courts and have due process. He was obviously arrested. He was obviously an illegal. There's no question about that. And by being an illegal, by definition, under the executive order, we are told that those, and they are, criminals. They have entered this country illegally. Now, this will continue to happen, unfortunately, and unfortunately for America, this wastes a lot of taxpayer dollars. We're removing people that illegally came in, and now they want them to come back, only to find, guess what? They illegally came in. It's becoming absurd. It's a waste of time, frankly, and money.
That was the issue. The left or the Democrats or the morally superior among us think that Trump just makes things up. Everybody who left, the Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation, all the agencies that Democrats worshipped when they were going after Trump, oh my God, they trusted them without any scrutiny. They already found out the criminal background of the individual who was undocumented. So, again, God bless the good, wonderful, hardworking, amazing, lovely families from Venezuela, from El Salvador, Mexico, and the Middle East and other places. It has nothing to do with ethnicity. This has to do with enforcing laws. If Democrats don't like it, they can pass legislation in Congress or try to, protecting undocumented, even people who committed crimes from being deported. Democrats will never do that because they're not even proud on a nationwide scale of their alleged value system.
I've got a report that says the governor of New Jersey has ordered state police to stop cooperating with ICE. Okay, yeah. I heard it. You're the New Jersey person at the moment, Attorney General. What are you going to do? The U.S. Attorney. What are you going to do about this?
As I announced last night on Hannity, I actually have ordered my office to begin an investigation into Governor Murphy and Attorney General Platkin's offices. Anybody who violates or requires or directs local and state law enforcement to harbor and conceal, to violate federal crime, and to ignore executive orders will be prosecuted in the state of New Jersey if they are found to have committed a crime. That is what is going to happen. Now, I know America gets very frustrated, but we have to investigate first. Once we do, if there is a crime, they will be charged.
Wow. Okay.
So it's almost certain there was a crime.
Her work, Alina became a nationally recognized.
This was 2 weeks ago, and this has been in the works for a long time, ladies and gentlemen. The arrests will take place of both Republican and especially Democrats who don't follow federal laws. And then we're going to get to people who set up and frame Trump, and then we're going to get to all if you've watched this channel since I became a supporter of President Trump, and there's a direct line from Bernie 2016 to Trump. If you don't understand the foreign policy similarities and everything else, you might be an ignorant imbecile. But anyway, since I became a supporter of President Trump over 7 years ago, I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you watch this channel and you see how passionate I am, multiply that enthusiasm times 1 million or 2 million or 10 million, and that's President Trump. So I don't think President Trump is just simply going to forget about 20 or 30 people who devoted their lives and their souls to taking him down, to unjustly setting him up and all of that. So hit subscribe. It's going to happen.
Warrior for the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. She also served as a key member of my successful 2024 campaign. On my inauguration, she joined the White House as senior staff. She was a senior staff member as the counselor to the president, and she counseled me very well.
President Trump singing Alina Habba's praises as she is sworn in as the interim U.S. attorney for the District of New Jersey during an Oval Office ceremony, and Alina Habba joins us now. First of all, congratulations to you. Want to get into the job. Want to get into the job in just a moment, but first of all, I got some breaking news because James Boasberg, the judge on the D.C. District Court, has just extended his temporary restraining order on TDA deportations for another 2 weeks until April the 12th. The president
and the Supreme Court overruled all of that.
The president, meantime, is going to the Supreme Court over the matter, saying in part in the petition, here the district court's orders have rebuffed the president's judgments as to how to protect the nation against foreign terrorist organizations and risk debilitating effects for delicate foreign negotiations. More broadly, rule by TRO has become so commonplace among district courts that the executive branch's basic functions are in peril. Don't know when SCOTUS will hear the case. Don't know if it'll be before April the 12th. But the president is making two arguments here. One on the national security issue, and the other, which goes to what Judge Elena Kagan was saying, that you just can't have these district judges in one jurisdiction ruling for the entire country. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's 100% right. We have something called separation of powers for a reason. This is the executive branch. The president is working out of that to keep America safe. And I want to really understand the rationale between trying to keep criminals in our great nation that came in illegally and then committed crimes. I'm not understanding what power he thinks he has and why that's in the best interest of this nation. But that's not his decision anyway. The decision is President Trump's. And we have to stop any kind of political enticed judges from making these decisions on the bench. And he's right. These TROs have to stop. What they're trying to do is stop the President Trump's agenda because he is skyrocketing right now. He truly has so much approval. If you look at it, it's over 80% of Americans want illegal immigrants out. President Trump's approval rating is at an all-time high of anyone. He had an 80 million person mandate on November 5th, and he is keeping true to his promises. These judges have no business coming in and trying to stop the Trump administration from pursuing their agenda, which was the America First agenda to keep us safe. Illegals need to get out. Criminals need to get out. And that is what he's going to continue to do. And it's unfortunate that they're wasting taxpayer dollars yet again trying to hold him up in court.
Hey, Alina, it's Sandra here. Glad to have you on. And we did watch that moment live at the White House. Congratulations to you just a short time ago. Sworn in as the interim U.S. attorney for New Jersey. So we're looking at some video of that. What did that moment mean to you? And how do you plan to serve in this new role? Well,
first and foremost, as I said in my speech, and I wish I had had more time, but, you know, I have to get to work. But President Trump has always been the biggest mentor, the greatest president, and frankly, friend, and the best client I could have ever had, because he took me to see something about injustice in this country that has to stop. We're talking about those TROs. They have to stop. And now he's entrusting me to take care of New Jersey and to take care of crime in New Jersey. And that is the plan. I've been getting swamped with information. I have a call with the FBI shortly after this to get right up to speed and make sure that we're arresting people. And I know, America, I'm seeing what you're saying. You want to see arrests? They're coming. I am coming. If you are a criminal in New Jersey, you better watch out, because I am not soft on crime, and I will be taking the president's agenda, but most importantly, the American agenda. It's not political. It's about safety. It's about putting America first, and now New Jersey will be my priority.
So the arrests are coming, and they've essentially already taken place because you already have the crimes. You have the crimes, the investigations won't take long, and you have about 10 to 20 mayors that have deliberately, with impunity, ignored immigration laws, existing laws that Democrats signed off on, voted on, and passed in Congress. This is not difficult, ladies and gentlemen. The American political establishment prior to Trump, the Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, President Obama, Clinton, Kerry, Harris, Biden, that type of political establishment did not want to change the status quo. You can only change the status quo if people are committing crimes by arresting them, and that's almost certainly what's taking place already.
So at the moment, the case of Mahmoud Khalil is in a New Jersey court.
Yes.
The administration's trying to get it moved to Louisiana in terms of the jurisdiction. But is this something that could fall into your lap? And what do you plan to do about it, if so?
Yes, I've already spoken about this. I've been getting briefings on it. I'm speaking with the marshals down there. That we have obviously protests in New Jersey at the moment. But I am fully briefed on it. Obviously, listen, this is exactly what we need to do. And we'll continue to prosecute anybody who.
So this perhaps, possibly, is why Democrats don't want laws enforced. Possibly, potentially.
Here with reaction, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Advisor Stephen Miller.
Democrats despise Stephen Miller, but they don't ever refute anything he says. Nothing is ever refuted by this. Like, whenever this man speaks, the wonderful, highly educated, morally superior get this visceral reaction, similar to Trump and Musk and anyone they don't like. It's like, oh, the end of the world. What is this man saying that is not true? Like, everything he says, there's zero rebuttal to.
So the claim is, and Hillary made this claim and many others, 69 million married women won't be able to vote if they took on the name of their husband, that they will disenfranchise American voters, and it's voter suppression. By the way, this is an 84-16 issue in terms of the polls. Voters want ID, signature verification, chain of custody controls, updated voter rolls. They want partisan observers watching the voting all day, the vote counting all night. That brings integrity to the process and confidence in results. Why would you be against it?
The only reason, Sean, you would be against any of that is if you wanted illegal aliens to vote, and to vote in incredibly large numbers. So let's just deal with all of this BS right now. Every other country in the world of any note requires an ID to vote. The notion that Democrats are pushing that married women, who, by the way, are a Republican voting demographic, cannot get ID could be one of the dumbest talking points I have heard in my entire life. As you said, the Real ID Act creates an ID that you can get at the DMV that demonstrates you're a citizen. Democrats want illegal aliens to vote. It's why Joe Biden and his administration gave millions. We verified this now.
You can get a real ID with your passport and existing driver's license. Okay, this isn't rocket science. You don't have to get a loan from the old commercial Ditech home loan. You don't have to get have to get a home loan, or you don't have to jump through hoops. Get the passport. There's all these different passport services. You get them quickly. You have to pay a couple $100, but You just have to get it, or you can just, do it for, whatever the cost is, like $50 or so. Get a passport and your ID or another form of documentation.
Millions, with an M, of illegal aliens' social security numbers. And once you have a social security number, it is incredibly easy to vote, to collect welfare, to get free government benefits, to participate in every aspect of American life. This isn't a mystery. They want illegals to steal elections, Sean.
All right, Stephen, what you're saying echoes exactly what Doge found, because not only did millions of illegal immigrants they aided and abetted into the country by Biden and Harris, then they get Social Security numbers that they obtain. Then they get voter ID. Many of them apparently voted, according to Doge, in 2024. And right. Elon Musk is saying it may be the biggest scandal of all time. And it's not a loophole, but, quote, a deliberate system. Non-citizens file for asylum, get work authorization. Then that automatically triggers the Social Security number. And from there, you get your driver's license. And from there, you get to vote or register to vote. And it was by design. That's their belief.
It is absolutely by design. You've summarized it for your audience perfectly, Sean. This was not a loophole. The Biden administration, Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, devised a scheme to fly illegal aliens into the country and then to escort them en masse across the border by the millions, and to give them something known as parole, which gives them a work permit, which gives them a social security number, which gives them access to the voting booth. This was the plan all along, to get them here illegally so they can get free government benefits, get hooked to welfare, and be able to participate in American elections. This was an attack on democracy by the Democrat Party. It's the same attack that we see, Sean, when you have California, a sanctuary state.
Number one, God bless all hardworking, wonderful, beautiful human beings from everywhere around the world in Central, Latin America, and the Middle East. Okay, I have to say that because I truly feel that. But the rebuttal from Democrats is fact check. Stephen Miller says things that are not true. Fact check. I've read all the fact checks. So, we spoke to this county official. We spoke to this expert. Happens to be a liberal Democrat who's also an expert in whatever field. Stephen Miller's wrong. There's zero evidence. You're never going to get the LA Times, well, maybe now, hopefully, but you're never going to get the Washington Post to say, oh, that's right, Democrats are benefiting from unlawful behavior. It will never happen for the New York Times, Washington Post, The Atlantic, Daily Beast, Mother Jones, The Nation, CNN, MSNBC, Ladies at The View, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, Jon Stewart. None of these people are ever going to do any investigative journalism. None. So you'll get Judicial Watch, you'll get Doge, you'll get Musk, you'll get Stephen Miller, you'll get a whole bunch of conservative investigative journalists, but Democrats will then issue the 20,000-word rebuttals. This is raw. This is innuendo. Why would we just allowed millions of people into the country because we're altruistic and morally superior. Blah. You're never going to get categorical proof of widespread fraud if you have any entire American political establishment, especially media, pitted firmly against the truth, the possibility of the truth. But the same people who say Trump's false claims are never the same people who say James Clapper's false claims or Biden's false claims or President Obama's false claims or Democrats' false claims when it came to Trump being a Kremlin operative. They always entertained the suspicion, the innuendo, the hyperbole, the unfounded accusations that Trump was a Kremlin operative. They never said the false claims from Biden's administration. Even to this day, when the Associated Press and Reuters, they'll say Trump's false claims in 2020. They'll never say Democrats or Adam Schiff's false claims pertaining to Trump working with the Kremlin for collusion or the Russians. So, it's obvious. You have to be a complete imbecile not to realize what's going on.
that is refusing to turn over even illegal alien criminals and gang members to ICE. So these are illegal aliens in California who have been arrested by California police, by California law enforcement for serious crimes, for crimes against children, for felonies, for crimes that threaten public safety, and they are refusing to hand these criminal illegal aliens over to ICE. Instead, they're freeing them back into the cities to offend and offend again. By any definition, what California is doing is criminal. It is a violation of our laws. It is one of the most heinous things that I have seen in my entire life in Washington.
But think about this, Stephen Miller, you go down to the border, and if you were to assist known illegal immigrants and, let's say, transport them, are you aiding and abetting law breaking? Wouldn't you get arrested? Wouldn't I get arrested? Wouldn't anybody watching the show get arrested?
Yes, in fact, you would do significant jail time, particularly under the policies of this administration. By the same token, if you, as an American citizen, put, say, a child into the back of a truck and drive them across straight lines, you'll be prosecuted for child trafficking. The Biden administration itself, the actual government of the United States, trafficked 500,000 children into this country and helped them to disappear. That is criminal. And back to the point about sanctuary states and sanctuary.
Do you want to know what the fact-checking rebuttals are? The fact-checking has gotten worse and worse over the years. It's now just a press release. The fact-checking, the 300 to 500,000 young people, it's a paperwork problem. We spoke to this individual for a political action committee or for some nonprofit organization funded possibly by a non-governmental organization that got money from USAID, potentially, possibly. We spoke to this expert, and the expert, who happens to always agree with us, we don't ever speak to experts that don't agree with us, but we spoke to an expert that agrees with us, and it's a paperwork problem. You would take ownership and you would take greater care if you were talking about motor vehicles, cars, like Democrats would not lose track of 300,000 Lamborghinis, okay, or Rolls Royces, and then say, it's a paperwork problem. We know they're around someplace. That's the rebuttal for 300,000 young people that came to this country that the Democratic Party has no clue where they are. Where's AOC with the performance art crying at looking into a chain-linked fence? When none of that stuff happened during Trump's administration. The separation was bad. It's not nearly as horrendous and insidious as 300,000 young people being lost under Democrats. And not a word is said. I mean, is there anything that Democrats pontificate on that they truly care about? That's the question.
Cities. There are laws against harboring. There are laws against evading authorities. There are laws against smuggling, laws against concealing, laws against obstructing justice. President Trump, as we speak, is working on an executive order that will be issued in the very near future that will clamp down and crack down on sanctuary cities as never before. This is a cancer on our democracy. The effort of the radical left to shield even the most violent illegal aliens from enforcement. President Trump will be soon taking action that will be more robust and more aggressive than anything done in this area before.
Now, that'll be transformational. It'll make our country more safe and secure, our towns safe and secure, our cities safe and secure. Anyway, Stephen Miller, we appreciate you being with us. Thank you. When we come back. Hey.
So this was a huge victory for President Trump with the Alien Enemies Act.
Deputy Chief for Policy, Homeland Security Advisor, our friend Stephen Miller. Stephen, it's even bigger than that. The Supreme Court brutally slapped this down, and they did cite the 1948 Supreme Court decision, which I had cited many times, that stated very affirmatively, 4 presidents had used it, that once the president made that decision and invoked this act, that it was his constitutional authority to do it, number one, and number two, it was not subject to judicial review. And that was the case. The court got it right. It should have been 9-0, but it was 5-4.
Yes, well, once again, Sean, your legal analysis was spot on. Your historical precedents, your case law was exactly right. So great credit to you for calling every element of that exactly correctly. This was a huge, a monumental victory for President Trump. The biggest legal win of this administration so far. A total embarrassment for crazy Judge Boasberg, who's been trying to force this president to bring foreign alien terrorists back onto American soil, trying to turn our planes around, trying to empty prisons in foreign countries and bring them back to our soil. This is a monumental, colossal victory for the rule of law, for the Constitution, for our founding generation, John Adams, who signed this law into effect in 1798, and for President Trump in fulfilling his mandate and campaign pledge. What does this mean for you and your family watching at home tonight? It means that the Department of Justice, FBI, DEA, ATF, the U.S. Marshal Service, Customs and Border Protection, Border Patrol, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement now have maximum authority to find and remove illegal alien gang members from Venezuela that have been responsible for so much misery in this country, for the torture and murder of Jocelyn Ungary, for the brutal slaying of Laken Riley. Those monsters can now be hunted down and expelled from this country with speed, force, and efficiency. This is a great day for America, Sean.
The court also held that the case should not have gone to D.C. since the plaintiffs were in Texas. And to me, that's a repudiation against judge shopping. So I think that's another big win, because that is a tactic. What the left can't get done electorally or legislatively, they run to judicial activists on the court to try.
That was a huge victory for President Trump and the country. What took place is that you have a lot of D.C. judges that are liberal Democrats that are very, very indoctrinated, and they're defending the Democratic Party at all costs, all the time. And the D.C. judges have up until the Supreme Court ruling, have been allowed to say, no, Texas, you can't do that. No, any other state, you can't enforce this type of law. And now they can't. Now they have to stay within their jurisdiction. They cannot, a D.C. judge can't tell Texas or Georgia or Arizona or California or any other, Louisiana, any state what to do in terms of enforcing this type of law.
Try and get it done that way. So I think that's a blow to that process and that strategy that they use.
Oh, without question. So you talk about it many times, Sean, judge shopping, forum shopping. So the radical left lawyers like the ACLU will search for the most lunatic left judges in the whole country to try to shut down the president's action, even if there are no plaintiffs where that judge is operating. In this case, we had illegal aliens who were part of a designated foreign terrorist organization who have been declared alien enemies in Texas, and they were suing us in D.C. This judge should have mooted out the case the second it was filed. So instead, the Supreme Court mooted it out for him. And what it means is that now all of these crazy left judges are on notice that President Trump is fighting back against lawfare. He's fighting it back against judge shopping and forum shopping. And we're going to protect the powers of the president, and we're going to protect the people of this country. You and I, Sean, have spent many hours with victims who have been murdered by the illegal aliens let into this country by Democrats. President Trump has hugged them. He's held their hands. He's looked into their eyes. He has promised them that their loved ones will not have died in vain. He is fulfilling that oath and that obligation. And with this ruling, he will be empowered to keep America safe.
All right, Stephen.
A colossal victory for the rule of law.
A massive victory for law and order and for our constitutional republic and the sovereignty of the United States of America.
A landmark victory for the rule of law. And this is what we've been arguing on behalf of President Trump from day one. These are enemies of our state, of our country, and they should be deported.
They're clear. And here we go. A Fox News alert. The Supreme Court giving a major boost to President Trump's border agenda, clearing the way for deportation flights to resume using the Alien and Enemies Act after an Obama-appointed judge tried to block it. Let's bring in the Attorney General for the United States, Pam Bondi.
And by the way, AOC and Ron Wyden proving yet again that Democrats don't really believe in anything they say. I mean, Trump wanted to enforce immigration laws in 2016. He wants to do so in 2024. He wanted to end never-ending wars. And you know what? The media is playing up a certain potential for war. It ain't going to happen, okay? Not with President Trump. Possibly with Biden, inadvertently, but it ain't going to happen with Trump. That's a negotiating tactic the Democrats and media just can't comprehend. But President Trump ending never-ending military conflict, which is why you go from Bernie Sanders to Trump, enforcing immigration laws. Bernie Sanders was for that. Bernie Sanders was a phony version of Trump. He was a left-leaning, phony version of President Trump, who would, by the way, would be a liberal Democrat in the 90s. Trump is against wars. He wants to enforce immigration laws. Okay, pretty much a 90s Democrat on a lot of things. He wants to bring back jobs that were outsourced. Okay, President Obama and Bernie Sanders ran on that. Let's see. He wants to protect the working class, the middle class. I thought that was the domain of Democrats. Oh, okay. That's why, like, Robert De Niro is like, I don't understand why people don't like Trump, or people like Trump. It's like, well, you're a multi-millionaire Hollywood celebrity. How on earth could you possibly understand how Trump would win the popular vote? Hollywood millionaire celebrities are so outside of what most Americans, they're so removed from the daily lives of most Americans, which is why President Trump won the popular vote, despite Hollywood using exhibiting their typical hysterical, apoplectic fit as always. But let's continue. Hit subscribe if you're new, people. I'm telling you, this is going to be a really interesting year. Next year will be interesting too. I mean, it'll be amazing in terms of completely changing the paradigm of American politics. Trump is a great American for changing the paradigm of American politics. We would have gone bankrupt without Trump and Musk and Doge. Democrats would have continued to potentially try to cheat. They do so. They cheat their own candidates, Bernie Sanders, Biden. Imagine what they're allowed to do potentially to the country. But let's continue.
Madam Attorney General, thank you so much for joining the program.
Thank you. Good morning. It's a great day for America, and it's a great day to be a Florida Gator.
Well, yes, it is. More news on that later, Madam Attorney General. But let's talk about what the court did. Essentially, they didn't rule when it comes to the Aliens and Enemy Act. What they said was this was the wrong venue, that the D.C. Circuit Court had no jurisdiction over that. But they also said, listen, if there's due process, then they have to do it through the normal channels, through a habeas writ. So what is the administration reaction to all that the Supreme Court just said yesterday?
Well, Lawrence, this is a landmark victory for the rule of law. And this is what we've been arguing on behalf of President Trump from day one. These are enemies of our state, of our country, and they should be deported. And what the judge ruled was going forward, from this day forward, all those planes that are gone are there. Those people are staying. So there are a lot of reasons why Americans are safer. From this point forward, the hearing will be held, it's a habeas hearing, in the court of confinement, which means in Texas.
Yeah.
So it will be a much faster hearing. They can't do class actions. It will be a much smoother, simpler hearing, and these people will be deported. Americans are safer.
So I read the New York Times rebuttal on this by one of the opinion commentators, and they were like, oh, yeah, Trump lost. It's really, the Democrats and the, activists won. It's like, what? No. First of all, you can't judge shop. You can't shop for a judge anymore. You can't get a DC judge to legislate, to pass legislation that you're too cowardly to pass because you don't even care about your alleged value system in Congress. So you can't get a DC judge to tell Texas or any other state not to enforce laws. The due process, Trump and Pam Bondi didn't care about. They have the evidence. It's not like that. It's not like Trump. The issue of due process is not. They're not afraid of proving in Texas that an individual is undocumented and also committed crimes. That's not a concern of Trump or his administration. The concern always was a DC judge would issue a nationwide injunction or prevent another state, in this case Texas, from enforcing existing laws. Now the DC judge that authority does no longer exists for any judge around the country, including in DC. That was a huge defeat for Democrats. That's what they relied on to stop Trump in many cases.
And domestic terrorists, foreign terrorists, you better look out because we're coming after you. I'd start self-deporting if I were you because we're going to find you.
So, Madam Attorney General, let's get this on record because I think it's important for the audience to understand. Going forward, there's no shopping as it relates to immigration anymore. If someone is detained and scheduled for a deportation, they can no longer shop across the country for a judge, a liberal leading judge. And now all the cases going forward have to go to that Texas judge. Is that correct?
Correct, Lawrence. And that's what was happening. These liberal district judges thought that they could control our entire country's policy, Donald Trump's policy, on keeping America safe. They cannot do it. And this was, again, a landmark ruling for the rule of law yesterday. And it's so important because these flights will now continue. These terrorists, they are foreign terrorists. They are alien enemies to our country, and we will continue to deport them. We are going to keep America safe, and a liberal district judge is not going to stop us. And that's what the Supreme Court ruled yesterday.
So, Madam Attorney General, let's talk about the judge in D.C., Boasberg. There's a hearing scheduled today. Will that happen? I mean, this is essentially over. Will he still try to use some type of power that he has?
There is a hearing scheduled today at 3 p.m. He is not canceling the hearing. He is continuing on with the hearing, but the Supreme Court has spoken loud and clear. He has no jurisdiction. That flight will remain in El Salvador. Those inmates, those violent gang members, those violent alien enemies will remain in El Salvador. He cannot get them back. So his jurisdiction is over. So we'll see what he says today at 3 p.m. But going forward, these terrorists better look out.
Let's talk about this DOJ attorney that you have since put on leave. As I was reviewing the case, I found a lot of the action skeptical, interesting. It seemed like this attorney was arguing for the other side and not for the United States at that moment. At what point did you make the decision to pull him off the case?
Well, we represent the United States of America. That's our client. That's our only client in all the agencies that fall under the federal government. And any lawyer has an ethical duty to argue on behalf of their client, not against their client. And that's what happened in this case. He has been placed on administrative leave, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it was the right decision. You're exactly right.
There have to be
Department of Justice works for the
consequences
people.
for your actions. There will be consequences for your actions. You have to ethically argue on behalf of your client, and that wasn't happening in this case.
That's exactly right. So, Madam Attorney General, it looks like Maine is upset, the state of Maine. The president made it very clear that no.
So these are huge, huge victories for President Trump. If you want, like, a lot of people say, oh, you know what, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, they haven't, you know, done to others what has been what has already been done to Trump. They haven't treated in a reciprocal manner the same people who broke the law in the manner that Democrats went after Trump who didn't break the law. And the issue is, number one, it's only April. Number two, President Trump, in less than, 4 months, has completely upended the Democratic Party.
United States Attorney General Pam Bondi joins me now. Good evening, Attorney General.
Good evening.
You know, the Democrats claim that the Alien Enemies Act only applies to a country. The president is trying to apply it to a foreign terrorist organization. Tell us how that works.
Well, Janine, the Alien Enemies Act applies to a situation just like this. And it's interesting, people argue that it's such an old law. I think an old law is a virtue, not a vice. Think about that. Our founding fathers knew exactly what they were doing, and it applies to a situation just like this. Trans de Agua, they are a foreign arm of the Venezuelan government. They are organized, they have a command structure, and they have invaded our country.
And like I said, this is an issue of enforcement of existing laws. It has nothing to do with ethnicity. Democrats want to merge and combine legal and illegal, or documented and undocumented immigrants. It's the typical stupid, vapid, absurd, nonsensical, deceptive, disingenuous, petulant semantic game that they always play. They can't use words in the English language that haven't been altered, after 2016 or 2017. If you use the English language in the manner that Webster's Dictionary printed prior to 2015 would read, Democrats lose pretty much every argument. Okay, so they had to change words. They had to change meanings. They had to distort context. And what Democrats say now is, well, Trump is against the migrants. He's not against migrants. He's not against immigrants. He's not against immigration. Trump is enforcing existing laws. And if Democrats, there's a difference between undocumented and documented. That's why they're two different words. With Democrats, you don't have to take a philosophy of language course, but what they do is so vapid, it's so sophomoric, it's so out there, like in your face. They're trying to deceive you in your face. They're saying Trump is against immigrants. Like, no, he's not. His wife is an immigrant. He has nothing against immigrants. Okay? He is simply enforcing. Sailor Spirit, thank you, sir. Chag Sameach to you, thank you so very much. Sailor Spirit, greatly appreciated, very kind of you. Becky, everyone here, to my members, thank you. God bless you all. Thank you so much. Sailor Spirit, God bless you. Everybody here, God bless you. Becky, everyone, Paul, everyone, thank you so very much. I will be back this evening, everybody. Hit subscribe to this channel if you're new. The rest, they're taking place, and it's going to be very interesting to see the absolute unmitigated meltdown. Hit subscribe. I'll be here tonight for the